Check this out. A quiet afternoon on a Florida golf course turned into a tragedy that police say was connected to alcohol, a golf cart, and one fatal fall. This is the story of Cynthia Mackin. It was a late afternoon on a summer Saturday near Astor Creek Golf and Country Club in Port St. Lucie, Florida, when Daniel and Cynthia Mackin was enjoying a normal round of golf. The couple was visiting the area at the time, and according to police, earlier that day, they had been drinking. Now, golf carts are commonly used in residential golf communities throughout Florida, and under state law, they can be operated on certain designated roadways. But just because it's a golf cart doesn't mean traffic laws don't apply. As the cart was moving, Daniel wasn't seated inside, but instead, he was standing on the back of the cart, holding on as it traveled. Witnesses later told investigators that the cart was in motion when Daniel lost his balance. Then, he lost his grip. At around 5:20 p.m. that evening, Daniel fell off the cart, hitting his head on the sidewalk as he fell. Soon after paramedics had arrived, they transported Daniel to a nearby hospital. At that moment, the focus was medical: stabilize him, assess the trauma, and determine the severity of his injuries. Now, back at the scene, Port St. Lucie police began documenting everything. They measured the distance of the fall, they interviewed witnesses, they examined the golf cart, and they evaluated road conditions. What initially appeared to be a tragic accident began drawing closer scrutiny once officers noticed signs of possible alcohol impairment. Because the golf cart was being operated in an area treated like a roadway, under Florida state law, officers initiated a DUI investigation. Field sobriety procedures were conducted. According to law enforcement, Cynthia showed signs of impairment. Authorities later stated her blood alcohol level was above the legal limit. As investigators continued reconstructing the timeline, the drinking earlier in the day, the cart in motion, Daniel standing on the back, and the fall, the case shifted from an accident review to a potential criminal matter. Hours later, then came an update from the hospital, and sadly, Daniel Mackin was pronounced dead. With his death confirmed, the investigation escalated. What began as a DUI injury now carried far greater legal weight. Shortly thereafter, Cynthia was taken into custody and charged with driving under the influence in connection with the incident. Under Florida law, if impairment is determined to have contributed to a death, prosecutors may pursue DUI manslaughter, a felony offense that carries a mandatory minimum prison sentence if convicted. At the time of her arrest, Cynthia was initially charged with DUI while the case continued to be reviewed by prosecutors. The arrest was unusual, not because of a vehicle involved, but because golf carts are not typically thought of as DUI situations. However, Florida law allows DUI charges to apply to any vehicle operated on public roadways if impairment is involved. As the investigation continued, police also noted that another man at the scene, identified as 37-year-old former MLB player Justice Morrison, was arrested for obstruction of justice after refusing to step back and interfering with officers' investigation. According to police reports, officers instructed to create distance from the active investigation, and when he allegedly failed to comply, he was taken into custody. Cynthia was later released on a $500 bond pending further legal proceedings. At that stage, the case remained under review by prosecutors, who would determine whether to pursue enhanced charges based on toxicology results, witness statements, and the totality of evidence. Legal experts speaking to local media noted that factors such as Daniel's position on the back of the cart and whether he had also consumed alcohol could become relevant considerations in court proceedings. But the central issue of the investigators remained whether the driver was impaired and whether that impairment directly contributed to the fatal fall. From a routine ride to a sudden fall to a DUI investigation, to hospital confirmation to an arrest. The entire sequence unfolded within hours. What started as what many would call a leisurely ride on the golf course that afternoon ended in tragedy, and now it's in the hands of the prosecutors, defense lawyers, and the courts. And that's how the story goes. If you enjoyed the story, like and subscribe. And if there's a story you would like me to cover next, comment down below, and I'll see you in the next story.